Ariel Scheinerman, better known as Ariel Sharon, was a 25-year-old student in the summer of 1953, but he already had extensive combat experience. He'd established himself as a leader from his days as a teenage youth movement counselor and had proven his courage during the War of Independence, during which he had been badly wounded. Arik, as he was also known, was charismatic and authoritative, a warrior in top physical condition, and he didn't hesitate when the IDF General Staff recruited him to eliminate Simwali. My father immediately said yes, wrote Sharon's son Gilad in a biography of Ariel. He was confident that with 7 or 8 good men, friends who'd served with him in the war and afterward, and with the right kit, he could do it. On the night of July 12th and 13th, Sharon and a squad made up of reservists managed to get inside Samweli's village in the West Bank and blow his house up. But the intelligence they were given was flawed, and Samweli wasn't at home. The force got entangled in a firefight and made it out by the skin of their teeth. The High Command saw the operation as a success, deep penetration in the enemy territory, demonstration of its ability to hit a target, and returning to the base without casualties. Sharon, by contrast, came back exhausted and totally dissatisfied. His conclusion was that such operations had to be carried out by professionals, something completely different from the random group of buddies he had taken with him that night. He told his superiors that there was a need for an elite commando unit. On August 10th, Unit 101 came into being. This unit was set up for the purpose of operations across the border, those non-standard missions that demand special training and high-level performance, according to the 101. According to the 101 operations procedures, written by Sharon himself, read poorly. Sharon was given free rein to select his own men, from reservist soldiers redrafted to the army as well as regular soldiers. He wanted to put them through a grueling, year-long training program. His fighters learned how to handle explosives, how to navigate long distances, and how to fire accurately and precisely while on the run over mountainous terrains, exercises that both developed their skills and instilled a sense of pride and confidence. The young leader made sure his men stood apart from the IDF regulars, arming them with a different personal weapon from the outdated bolt-action Slovak rifle in use at the time. Instead, they were issued Carl Gustav submachine guns, and they were also the first to try out the new and still secret Israeli-made Uzi. Sharon also relaxed the rules of both dress and conduct at their secret base in the Jerusalem mountains. The men of the Unit 101 often worked entirely in civilian attire. To Sharon, the outward trappings of military order were of marginal use. More important was that his men believed they were special, better, the best, and that they trusted their commander. Sharon's operational briefings were precise and unequivocal, and he fought at the front of his battalion, often in the most vulnerable position, embodying the well-known model of the IDF commanders, "Follow me." Sharon was imbued with a limitless and unrestrained motivation to go on operations, and he grasped that if he had to wait for precise intelligence from Amman to carry out a targeted killing, he might never do anything. Didn't they set this up so that they had better intelligence? So this guy's saying, oh, it's cool, we don't need better intelligence because we're the shit. This is going to end poorly. Accordingly, Sharon and Moshe Dayan, chief of the general staff, shifted tactics, abandoning pinpoint precision for something more primal. Rather than kill prime Palestinian terrorists, they would avenge the killings of Israelis by attacking and terrorizing the Arab villages from which the terrorists had set forth to harm Jews, as well as the army camps and police stations. We cannot prevent the murder of workers in the orchards. Fucking train. We cannot prevent the murder of workers in the orchards and of those families in their bed, Diane said in a lecture in 1955, but we have the ability to set a high price for our blood. Sharon, craving action, drew up plans for a series of punitive raids against Arab military and civilian targets, then lobbied for his superiors to approve them. Yet, it is an open question how many of those raids were punitive as opposed to provocative. Sharon was fond of quoting Diane's famous dictum, "We do not initiate battles in times of peace." Uzi Ilam, who served as Sharon's intelligence officer, suggested that this was not an ironclad rule. There were many courses in which we, at Arik's bidding, provoked the enemy over the border and incited war. In a real analysis of who started it over the entire history of the IDF's relations, we will not come out squeaky clean. Even in real time, as they were unfolding, there was an apparent downside to Sharon's tactics. In the fall of 1953, Fedayeen murdered a young woman and her 2 children in Yehud, just southeast of Tel Aviv. Brutal deaths that shocked the Israeli public. The government vowed to retaliate. The assumption was that Arab militants were using West Bank villages close to the border as bases to attack Israel. Sharon selected one of those villages, Qibya, which may or may not have been involved in Yehud's murders, as a target. On October 15th, before dawn, Sharon led a force of 130 men from Unit 101 and other outfits carrying more than 1,500 pounds of explosives into Qibya. Within hours, the village was destroyed. In the Qibya operations, one of Sharon's lieutenants later testified, "We blew up 43 houses." The IDF was equipped with small flashlights left over from the British Army, something you could barely see with. We went in with a megaphone, shining flashlights and shouting, "If there's anyone here, come out, because we are about to blow it up." Some got up and came out. Then we'd apply the explosives and blow up the house. When we returned, we reported 11 Arabs killed. It wasn't that we lied. We just didn't know. The death toll was 6-fold higher. At least 69 were killed, most of them women and children. The world, including much of Israel and Jewish communities around the globe, were horrified. The UN Security Councils condemned the raid, as did the U.S. State Department, which announced that it had already had suspended aid to Israel for violating the armistice agreements of 1949. Israel's official explanation for the massacre was that rogue Jewish civilians were responsible. All IDF units, that makes me wonder if, when you read about all IDF units were at their bases on the night of the raid, Ben-Gurion said publicly. Abba Eban, Israel's ambassador to the UN, repeated Ben-Gurion's lie at a session of the Security Council. Privately, Ben-Gurion gave Sharon his full support because Unit 101, despite the worldwide outrage, boosted morale within the Israeli army, exhausted by unrelenting defense operations. The unit represented dedication, daring, physical prowess, and mental stamina, ideals to which each IDF unit aspired. As Sharon later said, Unit 101 proved within a short period of time that there was no mission it could not carry out, and that those missions helped secure Israel's borders. That claim is open to debate. There are serious questions about how successful those commando raids were in reducing attacks by infiltrators, and some didn't even achieve their immediate objectives. But Israeli soldiers believed it was true. And that was enough. In early 1954, only 5 months after Unit 101 had been established, Dayan merged it with a paratroopers brigade, with Sharon as one of the battalion commanders. Dayan believed that Unit 101 had become a model of training and discipline, of dedication and skill, that Sharon could replicate with the paratroops and then the entire army. That can't end well. Sharon's activity within the paratroops was more restrained, because he was no longer commander of an independent unit, but also because changes had taken place in the high command. Ben-Gurion had resigned and been replaced as prime minister by the dovish Moshe Sharet, who generally refrained from approving retaliation attacks. But what Sharet did not approve, Sharon's men took upon themselves. The sister of the most renowned warrior in 101, Mir Har-Zion, was brutally murdered by Bedouins while on an illegal hike across the Jordanian border. Har-Zion and 2 comrades, with Sharon's moral encouragement and logistical assistance, went to the scene and killed 4 Bedouin shepherds in revenge. Charette demanded that they be court-martialed, but Dayan and Sharon, with Ben-Gurion's backing, thwarted it. Charette wrote in his diary on January 11, 1955, "I wonder about the nature and the fate of this nation, capable of such fine spiritual sensitivity, such profound love of humanity, such honest yearning for the beautiful and the sublime, while at the same time it produces from amongst the ranks of its youth boys who are capable of murdering people with a clear mind and in cold blood by thrusting knives into the flesh of the young, defenseless Bedouin. Which of the 2 souls that run around in the pages of the Bible will overcome its rival within this nation? Which of the 2 souls that run in the pages of the Bible will overcome its rival within this nation?"